Hi, today we're going to talk about first aid kits. Well, there's plenty of kits out there on the market. Unfortunately, most of them don't have enough of the supplies you need in a survival situation. Next to things like hypothermia or hyperthermia, exposure to too much heat or too much cold, traumatic injury is the leading killer in a survival situation. So what I'm going to show you is a first aid kit that you can put together that'll fit in a pocket that will treat just about any traumatic wound that you might come across in a survival situation. It's relatively cheap to put together. I think this one, total cost on this was maybe 12 bucks, which is not really bad considering that it could save your life or someone else's life. So I'm going to show you what's in here and then let you make the decision on what you think you need or what you don't. Regardless of what you put in a first aid kit, I highly recommend that you get at least a basic first aid training through the Red Cross or someone like that. If you can, you have the time and you can afford it, you should take an advanced level course such as an EMT or a paramedic course preferably. I know that when I was a paramedic, that those skills have helped me since then in this field. I've been able to treat injuries that other people had no idea what they were. I've been able to do things that most people don't. I can start IVs, intubate people, suture people if I need to, and things like that. And I have done those things in the field while in Afghanistan and Iraq. So this is the first aid kit that I carry and every member of my family carries, and I recommend that you put together something like this too. Okay, in just about any traumatic injury, your patient's going to lose heat rather quickly, so you need to keep them warm and calm, and one way to do that is wrap them up in a space blanket. It'll reflect their heat back into them and help keep them warm. So every first aid kit that I put together has at least one of those kind of space blankets. The next thing you're going to see is just regular band-aids, the small up to the rather large ones for covering bigger wounds, for those minor cuts and scrapes you get when you're just out in the woods, and you're going to get pretty much no matter what in a survival situation. For bigger wounds, I carry 4x4s, 2x2s, and butterfly closures and some super glue. What most people don't know is super glue is really good at bonding skin, and the reason is it was developed during the Vietnam War to close battlefield wounds and prevent hemorrhage. You can buy the surgical grade super glue at a rather exorbitant price. I think it's like $12 a tube, or you can just get regular super glue. It's the exact same thing, and it'll do the same thing, because we all know that super glue is really great at sticking your skin together. For major bleeding, I have what's called Celox. It's like Quick Clot, but it doesn't give the burn. The nice thing about Celox is it will seal a venous bleed in about 10 seconds and an arterial bleed in under a minute. That's a small 20 grain package. You can get them up to 36 grains, and they're really good at stopping that major bleeding. I know everybody's going to the new Israeli bandages, but I happen to have a whole bunch of the old combat bandages that I got at a surplus auction. That they just happen to be there. As long as the package is still sealed, they're sterile. You can use them for slightly larger wounds. They open up to about 6.5 by 7 inches, so you could even use those on an abdominal evisceration to hold the person's guts in until you can get them where they need to be. I carry a 2-inch ace bandage for minor sprains, and also if I need to make a pressure dressing of some kind, then I have the ability to do that. The gloves are I carry 2 pairs of nitrile gloves because there are people that are allergic to latex. So the nitrile pretty much covers everybody without having to worry about that allergy. The main reason you're carrying the gloves is to protect you, but also to keep any further contamination out of the wound. Your hands are going to be dirty and nasty. You put the gloves on, at least you have something clean that you're treating the wound with. I carry some just standard Q-tips for everything from cleaning my ears to getting the edges of a wound clean if I need to. along with cleaning a wound, is Quick Clean. It's an antiseptic hand wipe that you can use. It's also good for cleaning small cuts or abrasions. Burns a little bit when you do, but it gets the job done. Now up here, we don't have too many venomous snakes. For some reason, they don't like it above 10,000 feet, but we do have lots of venomous spiders, black widows, brown recluses, and a couple of others. Handy thing to have is a Sawyer extractor. If you live in the lower elevations where there are rattlesnakes and things like that, this can be used to suck some of that venom out and buy yourself some time. It's not gonna get all the venom out by any stretch of the imagination, but it does help. For more traumatic injuries where the C-locks is just don't have enough or whatever, I have a CAT tourniquet. It's a combat application tourniquet. It was designed by the Israelis. It's in widespread use, first by special operations, and now it's everybody in the United States military has one, because they found that by applying a tourniquet to a major arterial bleed, you increase that person's chance of survival by about 80%. Along with that is a nasal airway. The adage of the ABCs kind of goes out the window when you have a major arterial bleed. The idea is stop the bleeding, start the breathing. You can live about 4 minutes without oxygen. You can live about a minute and a half, 2 minutes with a major arterial bleed. Now, that's a nasal airway for an adult. Each one of my kids has a child-sized nasal airway. Each of the adults has an adult airway. The idea is this is my first aid kit. So if I get injured, my wife, my kids are going to use my stuff first. That's the way it should be, especially if you have a family. Each person should have their own individual first aid kit, and you use their supplies on them. As I said, I have slightly more advanced training, as does one of my sons. We're both nationally registered paramedics. So we also have IV fluids and things like that that we carry in our rucksacks or in a medic bag. But again, with the nasal airway, if you're not trained to use it, don't. You can cause more harm than good. You're better off getting a standard CPR mask or something like that in order to give somebody mouth to mouth if you have to. The nasal airway just helps secure an airway in a conscious patient, less likely to gag, throw up, and cause problems. Okay, well that covers the first aid kit. Now, you may not want to carry that much. At the very least, you need to carry some band-aids and some way of closing a major wound, like butterflies or super glue, because out here, especially in a survival situation or a bug out situation, a minor wound could kill you. The infection will set in rather quickly out here because it's not the most sanitary place in the world. So you need to be able to get that wound treated as quickly as possible. If you are in a survival situation, like I said at the beginning of the video, second only to exposure, traumatic injury is the leading cause of death in that kind of situation. I've been out where I've seen people that did everything right but died from an arterial wound because they didn't have the first aid supplies to treat it. Now, in any survival situation, you are going to pick up minor cuts and scrapes. So why not just have what you need to treat those? Thanks for watching the video, and as always, train to survive.